Hello everyone and welcome back to another Maidstone United preview. In this video we're going to be taking a look at Maidstone's third game of the season, the second consecutive game at home at the Gallagher after the York City win over the weekend, and this time it's Tuesday night under the floodlights versus Dorking Wanderers. So of course a very familiar foe from last season, our main contenders in that National League South title race, and we did manage to get one over them in total over last season in terms of our league position, but when it comes to actually playing them last season, I do believe we lost both of the games. I commentated both of them as well, and unfortunately I'm commentating this one as well, so my track record commentating Dorking games has not gone too smoothly. A 2-0 at home last season and a 1-0 away, so hopefully a little bit more fruitful this time. I think Maidstone are going to be a little bit more prepared, so let's get into what I think is going to happen. So looking at both teams' start to the season, Maidstone have picked up 4 points so far. Of course, during the opening game of the season we did face Altrincham on the road, and picking up a point there, considering the circumstances, is a pretty good result. Of course, a very long trip to Altrincham is going to take it out of the players a little bit. First game of the season after missing a couple pre-season games as well. Many injuries, new signings coming in, and of course the red card during the game as well. Coming away with a point was a very good result for the Stones. However, at the Gallagher on Saturday, the first home game of the season versus York City, the Stones did manage to complete a comeback, and a brace late on from Sam Corn, both set up by Rory Deacon, did allow us to pick up all 3 points against a team that many people are tipping to push for at least the playoffs this season. So, very good start to the season, all things considered for the Stones. But taking a little look at Dorking, they did play Chesterfield, one of the favourites for the title, of course, and that was on the opening day of the season. They did manage to secure a point there, although it was under somewhat concerning circumstances for Chesterfield, having finished the game with 9 men, one of which, those sending offs being the goalkeeper, who I believe was sent off in the first half, and they did end up playing with a midfielder in goal for the majority of the game. They also got a sending off right at the end, so it didn't really bear too much impact on the game. I think it was 90th minute plus, so 10 men Chesterfield, midfielder in goal, and Dorking did manage to complete a comeback against a very good side. 10 men or not, Chesterfield are a top side in this division, so Dorking did perform well at times, but for me, I've looked at a few of their highlights. Obviously it's very hard to tell at this stage in the season what level the opposition are playing at. Oldham, no one knows where they're going to be. A lot of people tipping them for relegation, tipping them for promotion, tipping them for mid-table. Anybody's guess where they might end up, so it's very hard to tell. But looking at some of the highlights from both sides, Oldham and Dorking in their last game, Dorking in their defensive line looked very exposed at times, especially down that right-hand side of Dorking. The left, of course, for the opposition, they were exposed multiple times, and actually I think all of their goals did come down that left flank in some way or another. Of course, there was that free kick that ended up bundling back to Oldham and deflecting in, but in terms of on the break, they were caught out quite a few times. Their defensive line was a little bit all over the place. Their fullbacks did push on quite a lot, of course, and we saw Bobby Joe Taylor actually picking up a couple of assists as well down his left flank. So again, it was a bit concerning from a defensive standpoint, I think. I don't imagine Oldham were expecting to score 3 goals against a team like Dorking, of course. Very high pressing, very high on their quality, especially going forward. And the 2 goals did come quite late on when it seemed that Oldham had switched off a little bit defensively. Both goals came from a cross from Bobby Joe Taylor from very deep, just inside the opposition half. Lofted cross straight into the middle, both absolutely fantastic balls, but I do feel the Oldham defence could have dealt with that a little bit better. So I do think that when it comes to this Dorking game tomorrow night, we might be able to see Jack Cooley, Joe Lowell, George Fowler, whoever's playing in those 2 centre spots, picking up those headers a little bit more convincingly. But Dorking have got some fantastic quality up front, of course. Josh Taylor's now kicking on the ex-Stone. Bobby Joe Taylor, of course, another ex-Stone who's performing fantastically in that side. And Alfie Rutherford, of course, picking up a goal over the weekend as well. fantastic headers. So hopefully we can just secure the box, stop those incoming crosses. And against Chesterfield, their goals were a little bit scrappy. Of course, there was a midfielder in goal, so again, it is going to be tough to tell how, the quality of those shots would have been perceived if there was a top quality goalkeeper in there. But in the grand scheme of things, they did do quite well to get a comeback. So we do have to be wary of Dorking's ability to get across in, the pace they've got up front with Rutherford, with Seeger, if he does play, you never know, might come on. Not sure of their injury situations throughout the squad, so kind of just going off my base knowledge of the squad. Of course, we've seen Jack Jebb performing pretty well as well. The new signing for them was at Dartford last season, one of the players of the season across the National League last year, so they have made improvements to this squad, Dorking, and they made them very early on as well. So they've had a lot of time to bed them into the squad, get them familiar with their style of play, and allow them to just bed into this squad quite nicely. When it comes to Maidstone, however, I do think we're going to see a little bit of an improvement on the last couple of weeks as the team does manage to get up to speed. They did get, hopefully, a little bit of an earlier start on their recovery from Dorking, or compared to Dorking, as Dorking did have to travel back home from Oldham over the weekend. So straight after the game versus York, hopefully we were able to start that recovery process, even if it is just 6 hours, 12 hours, 24 hours earlier than what Dorking can do. That does pay dividends when you've got a short turnover of games, just a few days in between the Saturday and Tuesday fixture. Of course, a 6-hour difference is going to make a lot of an impact. So hopefully we can see Maidstone's fitness prevail a little bit in this game. But when it comes to Maidstone in general and what I'm expecting, I would not be surprised to see the same lineup that we saw against York. Potentially we could see James Alabi moved out and Gandor come back in. I think that could be quite a good option. A little bit more pace up front, a little bit more dynamism, and it will kind of put the pressure on this somewhat disjointed Dorking defence that we've seen so far this season. Again, they've played very high quality sides in Oldham and Chesterfield, so conceding a couple goals to them may not be the same as conceding a couple goals to us. Of course, looking back at their highlights, it does appear that they're cut through quite easily. But again, when you've got the quality of player as maybe Dobra from Chesterfield, playing balls through and picking the ball up in the box and working it around, then it is going to look a little bit easier. But Maidstone also do possess the quality to do this, as we saw versus York. Rory Deacon's ability to put a ball in or beat a couple men on the dribble and deliver a good ball into the box is going to be key for this game for me. I think we might see Rory Deacon playing on the left, actually Jack Barham up front, and then probably Hadi Gandor for me on the right hand side. We could see Christy Patterson there, considering Gandor has now missed a game out. He should be returning from suspension as he was only double yellow carded, so I think that's only a 1-game suspension, but you never know, we might stick with Alabi for something different up front. But for me, I do believe we're going to need that pace, that kind of tenacity up front, and those smaller players, more intricate players who are able to kind of slip through players rather than just barrel through them, which we can see Alabi do, but Dorking do have quite sturdy defenders at the back. So I think if we just get smaller players who can kind of weasel their way through defences, that could benefit us quite a lot. The reason I say we might see Rory Deacon out on the left and Gandor on the right is because Deacon played really good football from the left against York. Of course, both of the goals did come from that left-hand side of the box through Rory Deacon. And having a little look back over the Dorking highlights, they have been exploited down their left-hand side, well, down their right-hand side, the opposition's left, quite a few times. I think the intricate feet of Rory Deacon, of course, probably being the most technical player in our team, let alone that forward three, could prove quite fruitful in terms of his output in this game. So it would not surprise me to have that as our front three: Deacon, Barham, and then Hadi Gandor if he does return. And again, like I say, Christy Patterson may start, you never know, Alabi, but I do think both of those players might be a little bit better for us off the bench if things aren't going too well. In terms of the midfield, I think there's a little bit of a headache there. Regan Booty, Sam Corn, of course, nailed on starters, but There is a big Dom Odesanya Henry Woods debate. Henry Woods impressed coming off the bench when Dom didn't have a brilliant game versus Altrincham, and the same kind of goes for the York game. Henry Woods kind of struggled to settle into the midfield battle. Of course, it was a very tough game versus York for a vast majority of it. And unfortunately for him, York actually did drop off in terms of their fitness levels just after he came off. So, it's tough on him. Of course, benefits Dom, benefited Henry in the Altrincham game. So, yeah, it's going to be really tough. For me, personally, I think we might see Dom Odesanya just because of the impact from that York game. And he is familiar with Dorking as well. Of course, was in our squad last season when we did play them, or at least in and around it. I'm not sure if he started, can't quite remember, but he is familiar with Dorking. They are not necessarily a National League opposition in terms of our knowledge about them. We still will know the majority of their squad from the National League South, and even their signings as well, the majority of which have come from the National League South as well. So we'll be very familiar with them. So it wouldn't surprise me to see Dom starting. As for the back line, there is going to be a few questions asked, especially after the York City game. Let's talk about Yusuf Mersin a little bit. For me, fantastic at Altrincham. Probably the reason we didn't lose that game, but for me, there's a few little problems there in terms of communication and confidence. I think kicking is a little bit of a problem for Mersin at times. Some of his kicks do struggle to stay in or do struggle to find the man that he's looking for, and I think that might knock his confidence a little bit, which again makes the kicking a little bit worse as the game progresses. So I think he's a very good shot stopper. I really do like Mersin. I do think it was the right choice to start him versus Altrincham. He had a fantastic pre-season. And shots are shots. It doesn't matter who's taking them. If it's a good shot, doesn't matter if you're playing Enfield Town in pre-season. If the keeper's still saving it, he's saving a good shot. So he definitely earned his place for me in that first game. But I think we could see Tom Hadler making a return. For me, just the confidence that Mersin didn't necessarily show in the York City game did bring up a few questions for me. A lot of the people I've spoken to were a little bit concerned over that performance. For me, there's nothing really there that stands out. There's just a few things that need a little bit of work. I think communication is probably his biggest problem. There was quite a few times a ball would come in across the 6-yard box and he would stand and watch it go past, and rather than come out and claim it, if he talked to a defender rather than expect the defender to clear it, then maybe that could help us just in terms of overall defensive structure. So for me, Mersin, definitely a fantastic goalkeeper, but I think we might see a little change. Tom Hadler, of course, fantastic option. Probably the best keeper in the league last season, or at least one of the top 2 or 3. So yeah, I mean, it's anybody's guess. Hakan, big headache for you, unfortunately. And then the defensive line. I think the defensive line was actually pretty good versus York at the weekend, and again versus Altrincham. Altrincham, there was a lot going on in that game. We saw Loney starting, Corley's first professional game for the club. It was just a really tough game, but again, we only conceded 1 goal, and it's a very well worked goal. Same goes for the York goal at the weekend. So I think we will probably see the same defensive lineup, probably Fowler right back, Corley, Alol, and then Hoyt at left back again. We may see Liam Vincent coming in at left back, George Fowler on the bench, Hoyt back over on the right. We could see Corley dropped, Fowler starting with Alol, but again, it's another one of those, anybody's guess. It is a massive headache. I am going to put my predicted lineup here, and hopefully that will secure me a couple of points on the Fan Hub app. But it is, like I said, anybody's guess. Leave your comments below on maybe who you pick as your starting 11. Of course, it is quite confusing at the moment with injuries, who's fit, who's not. But overall from this Dorking game, I do think that we're going to see a Maidstone win. Now, of course, I have predicted 1-1 draws for the last 2 games. I'm going to be a little bit optimistic after that York comeback. I just think that there's this sort of belief in the squad that, everybody's kind of on Dorking as, they've got all this, the media and all these promotions in all these, as many years and all the rest of it. So I think everybody quite likes Dorking, and not too many people fancy Maidstone. A lot of people kind of writ us off in their pre-season predictions, you know, favourites to go down and all the rest of it. So I think that Maidstone could surprise a few people this season, and I think we might against Dorking as well. For me, that recovery time, of course, the travelling back from Oldham is going to be a big feature, or big factor, for this game. So I think we're going to see a Maidstone win 2-1. But again, my bogey commentating of the last two games does kind of play on my mind. So, you know, if you can't make it down to the game, please do try and make it down to the game, of course. You know, I don't care if anybody listens to me commentating. I'd much rather you be down at the game supporting the team. They're definitely going to need it. It's a big, big game, and it is what carried us through in that York game. So your support does matter, so hopefully you can make it down there. But if you can't, the 7:45 kickoff on Tuesday night, the 16th of August, then do tune in to Stones Live. I'll be commentating with a friend of mine, Callum Owen, so hopefully, you know, we can give you a good service there, get a little win in, and pick up 3 more points, and keep Dorking on 1 point down the bottom of the table. But that's going to be my predictions and a few of my thoughts on the upcoming game. Let me know your thoughts down below, and if you did enjoy this video and want to see a few more in the future, then of course subscribe to the channel and do like this video down below. So thank you all for watching, and I'll catch you next time.